welcome to our community first Tampa Bay 10 Talk radio show.
Sabrina, tell us what you do.
Well, I specifically do volunteer manager and community outreach for our site in Pasco County.
Okay.
We're also in Pinellas and Hillsborough, and we'll be expanding into Hernando next year in March of 2024. So what I do is that I recruit and I train and organize our volunteers to spend time with our patients and provide companionship or to do various activities. And I also get out in the community and I tell people about what we do and what services we can provide.
Okay. So you're at different locations. So the name of it is Accent Care.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, and is it working with hospice as well or not?
Yes, so it is hospice.
Right. So it is hospice.
Yes. So we provide in-home hospice care. So a lot of people think of hospice houses as where people go.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That is not the case anymore. We do have places where patients can go if they have unmanaged symptoms that we can't handle in their own home.
Yeah.
But the goal is always to have them
Stay in their home.
where they're comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
where they have their friends and family around them. So
what would a volunteer do when they came? Actually, someone's at their home and they're in the program. What would they do? I mean, what sort of different things would they do?
So primarily they are there to be a friend. So that means that they spend time with them, talk to them. You can read with them, listen to music with them. You can help them out with chores around the house, make them a meal. You just cannot provide any kind of like medical or personal care. That's the distinction. You're there to be a friend. So, you'd make your friend a sandwich, but you're not going to feed your friend.
Absolutely.
And what they do is very important because not only does it brighten the patient's days, but it provides a little bit of respite for the caregivers. It allows them to go off for an hour or two and run any errands or take care of themselves. And in facilities, it allows them to have more one-on-one time with somebody, whereas the staff might be stretched a little thin caring for everybody at once.
When I was taking care of a family member, I wish that I had had that opportunity that somebody could come in just for a few hours, even just coming in, and it's a breath of fresh air because the person that's going through this is stuck there, and also the caregiver is stuck there. Not that they're stuck, but what I'm saying is you need a little bit of a break and a little bit of rest. And the volunteers come in and they just brighten the person's day up and do all these different things for them.
And I'm kind of curious about something, Sabrina. It can be sad sometimes, right? When you're making that connection to someone and then they pass away, right? I'm assuming you probably have something for your volunteers to prepare them for those type of situations. And, how do you go about doing that? Or helping someone, cope with something like that? Do you provide training or?
Yes. So first and foremost, we train all of our volunteers.
Okay.
We talk to them about what end of life looks like. If they haven't experienced it before, we have an exercise that kind of puts them in somebody's shoes to go through what it's like to die, and to experience that. And then on top of that, when they lose somebody that they've been working with, we always check in. So we have our staff is made up of clinical, so your nurses, your aides, our doctors, and supportive care. Now, all of our supportive care staff are counselors or therapists in some way or another. You've got your chaplains, your social workers, your music therapists. That's what I started as. And so we can provide that help to them, to the volunteers, and say, hey, do you want to talk to one of our supportive care staff? Do you need help finding resources that are close to you to help you get through this? Do you need to take a break?
Yeah, I mean, how much training does someone get before they're like put in this situation that they go to someone's home? Before how long? A few weeks or a month or?
So it's actually all self-directed and it's online, which is really great. So all you need is an internet connection. So obviously there's the paperwork side of things that they have to fill out. But altogether, the modules that they watch video-wise that covers end of life and then also specific groups that we help takes about 15 to 20 hours.
Okay. And how do you monitor the people that are doing this, doing volunteering for this? I mean, is there any safeguards as people coming into someone's home? Are they checked before that, or they have to be bonded or anything like that?
So typically, especially if it's a new volunteer, I will go with them to the first visit, and I do give them information about the patient beforehand, and I try to keep in mind, what the patient is like or what the team has told me, what the volunteer is like. Do I think they'll get along well?
If it's a good fit,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because
And-
I could see that happening. Somebody might be better with someone than someone else.
Or a family member be like, hey, who is this person coming into my mom's
Yeah.
house?
Yes.
So you have a vetting system set up for those volunteers. You check their
Abs-
background, anything like that?
Yes,
Yeah.
we do. We do background checks. We do fingerprints.
great.
We do all that good stuff. It's just like applying for a job.
Okay.
And so we do all of that, and we provide the training. And then I make sure that the family is aware the volunteer is coming, make sure they want to volunteer. And then typically I'll go with them to the first visit just to introduce them, go over everything again. What do you do in case of this? What do you do in case of that? Here's my number. Call me if X, Y, or Z happens. Make sure everybody is harmonious. And then I leave them to it. And then they provide documentation of each visit that they complete after
So
that.
how long has your agency been doing this?
Overall, that's hard to tell because Accent Care, we used to be in this area, we used to be called Seasons Hospice.
Okay.
And I know for a fact that Seasons Hospice was started in 1997, I think,
So a long
because
time.
it's a year younger than I am.
So a long time.
But Accent Care, I believe, was started maybe later than that. I don't.
But it's
quote
been
me on
around
that.
for a long time.
It's been around.
And how are the outcomes? I mean, what are the family members like after the person passes away? What are the families saying about what's they've been provided for?
I would say, 95% of the time we get positive
really
feedback.
Positive.
They say, thank you so much for all the help that you provided. My mom really loved her nurse. My dad really loved the social worker.
Yeah.
We get cards sent to our office all the time from grateful people. And we send out surveys, I believe it's 2 months after your loved one passes, that asks these questions. How would you rate our service? Did you feel prepared? Did we give you enough information on how to, administer morphine, things that you've never done before?
I know. So when you started doing this, how long did it take you before you actually felt very comfortable by going into someone else's house and dealing with people? And how long did it take till you actually felt like, oh my gosh, I feel good about this?
So I actually have a really great story.
Okay,
I got to hear this one.
Gotta hear that.
Part of becoming a hospice worker is that you have to shadow. We do all the same training the volunteers do. And then in addition, we shadow each different discipline. So on this particular day, I was shadowing a chaplain. And I was at our inpatient unit, which is where we take our patients who we can't manage their symptoms in home.
Yeah, I understand.
And so we were there and they told us, okay, well, there's a patient who's going home. We're not sure if she's going to survive the ambulance ride, but she wants to die in her home. We are going to do our absolute best to get her there.
Get her home. Yeah.
And I have this is my first time encountering death on the job. I've experienced death on my own, but it's very different from experiencing it from, a professional standpoint. So I'm a little nervous. And so I get in my car, I go to this patient's house. All of her family is there. She did survive the ambulance ride. She gets in the house and the best way to describe her was glowing. She was so serene and pain-free. She was ready to go, surrounded by all of this love and light that she had in her life. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I spent the next 2 hours with the family just talking to them, learning about the patient, learning about her family. It turns out they were from the same city that I'm from in New York State. So we were talking about things that we missed from there because I had only just moved down.
Yeah.
And by the time I left, I felt like I was a part of that family, and I have never been nervous since.
So that wonderful connection you had with the patient themselves and the family, knowing that you've done a great job at the person's where they want to be, and and not all people have that type of ideal situation at the end of life, which is really sad. And that's a service that you're providing is really completely important.
Very beautiful.
Beautiful and
Now,
important.
have you been in certain situations that some of the families are like very religious, and they have certain things they want done, like a Muslim family versus a Christian family versus a Jewish family, they have the traditions and all that. Do you come across that type of situations?
We do sometimes.
Okay.
So when we do, we always try to honor the family's wishes. We say, what are your customs?
Okay.
How can we honor them? We're not going to come in here and just say, oh, well, we're the experts when it comes to death and dying.
Yeah.
You're going to listen to us. No.
Okay. How are you funded? You're a 501c3, right? You're a not-for-profit organization, or you're for profit?
So the Accent Care hospice services themselves are for profit, but funded through Medicare, Medicaid, other insurances. Our foundation is the 501c3,
Okay.
and that provides quality of life kind of things. So whereas the hospice services focus on that treatment, that
Clinically
palliative
and all that,
care,
yeah,
Mhm.
the
palliative.
foundation focuses on what's going to make you comfortable, what's going to bring you joy in your final moments. So that provides funding for our children's grief camp that we do every year.
Okay.
We're doing that in person for the first time this year
Well,
since
that's
COVID.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so we're doing that at the Museum of Science and Industry in November. So we're very excited. We're looking for campers, volunteers, donations, sponsors.
Okay.
It also funds, our foundation also funds legacy projects, which are things that we create for the family to remember their loved one by.
Okay.
Okay.
So now this exciting, so it's like a grief workshop for children. Is this what it is, or?
Yes.
And when is this going to take place, and how can people find out about it?
So it is on November 4th and 5th. That's a Saturday and Sunday
Okay.
from 9 to 4 for the kids at the Museum of Science and Industry. If they want to apply online or learn more about it,
Yeah.
they can go to the Seasons Hospice Foundation website, and there should be a tab for Camp Kangaroo, or they can get in contact with their local Accent Care office by,
Okay.
again, going to accentcare.com, and they will have the number to contact the office.
That's great.
As well as a donation, they can donate in that website as well, and that site.
Yes, the
Okay.
Seasons Hospice Foundation site.
Okay, great.
And
So-
is this the first time this is being held, or has this been held before?
It's been held before.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. So we're actually a national company.
okay.
And so we've had camps in, I think, 11 locations
Okay.
Okay.
throughout the country. The goal is to eventually have every single site have a Camp Kangaroo.
Oh, that's good.
So we have partnered with Pinellas and Hillsborough the past couple of years since we opened
Okay.
in 2020 to do Camp Kangaroo. We've done it virtually during the pandemic, so now we're doing it in person, and I'm very excited because I started when Pasco started, right at the start of the pandemic. So
That's
all I've
great.
ever known is virtual, and I'm very excited to get to see the kids in person.
Well, that's part of it. Yeah, because of what's happened in the last few years.
Mhm.
This is nice that you can actually get together, and it must be really thrilling to see all these kids and what a change it makes in their lives.
Yeah, it's so important because a lot of times there's so many resources for grief with adults,
But
There's
not for
not-
children. Yeah,
not
that's
for children. And we have to then make that distinction too of, what age group are they in? What's their
Yeah.
developmental level? How does that affect how they process death and
Mhm.
dying?
I think people have changed a little bit. I mean, when I grew up, it was really taboo, and
Mhm.
I think people are they're more open to having their children know about these things. Whereas when I was a kid, they just kind of glossed all over it.
Yeah,
And kids have grief that they have to deal with, just like adults.
they do.
So